My name's Rachel McLeod, and I am a licensed clinical social worker. And today, oh, and emotional wellness coach. That's is my what I'm doing lately. That's big news because I am retiring from therapy and going all out as an emotional wellness coach. It's what I'm going to be doing. It's what I'm doing now. It's what I've been doing, but now it's all that I'm doing. Um, and I have one therapy session left, and I'm wrapping that up. Anyway, that's a little bit more about me and not about you. But so let's go and do a little bit more what we're doing here with you. And they're changing things up on me over here, so I'm having a hard time following. But I hope. Okay, wait. I think they're doing what I want this. Oh, well, we'll see. I hope you're getting all the information. But okay, what we're talking about today is one of the secrets about anxiety, depression, traumatic stress that is rarely discussed. And it's one of these dark things that many of us carry around within us that we never talk about. And sometimes we don't even know because we're so used to it that it's just part of life. And it's just something that we just never, it's just not an issue. Right. And I want to talk about this because this is really really painful and when we don't bring things into our awareness, we don't have the opportunity to bring in change here, and we're missing out on um, a lot of our motivation, right? Because if we're talking about things like, well, it's not that bad, right? That is more of a suppression tactic, and it keeps us stuck where we don't want to be. It keeps us dragging around these disorders and these symptoms and these all the consequences of those things so much longer than what we really need to be doing. And these things are so costly that I don't want you to miss out on any bit of your motivation. I want you to have enough motivation to start and finish this journey with anxiety, depression, and traumatic stress because we can heal. And you're welcome to watch other videos that I've done about how the brain heals itself when you're done with me here. And because I want you to understand, because so many times I get on the call, I have people talk with me all the time, and they don't even know if this is something that can change. And that's, I understand that, because that's where we haven't, in as therapy goes, we haven't really brought out this message. We haven't been living and working under the message that we can heal. But the truth is, your brain is ready to heal at any time. That's actually why you have these symptoms of anxiety, depression, and traumatic stress, is because your brain is trying to heal itself. Many of us feel like our brain is trying to attack us, and that's how we interact with it. We're struggling with it, we're battling with it, we're fighting it. And really, this is wrong. This is why you're stuck, because you're not working with your brain properly. And the truth of the matter is that every symptom you have, whether it's a flashback, whether it's the what ifs, whether it's a intense defense system, whether it's denial, whether it's dissociation, these are all strategies your brain is using to try to heal and try to overcome things. And so, if you can start working with it like you guys are partners, this is going to get you a lot farther along in your journey than if you're trying to battle with this. Because let me tell you a secret that's not a dark secret. You're not going to beat your brain. You're not going to outsmart the smartest thing in the whole world. It's not going to happen. So you can have a couple of options. You can work with this thing, or you can get your behind drug around by it. So I would encourage you really to team up with this problem in your brain and get this problem solved, because that's why it's there. That's what it wants. And the more you keep pushing it down, the more you are missing out on the opportunity for healing, ending this problem, moving on to your life. Because you got big things to do, and you got a lot of little eyes looking at you, and you've got loved ones to engage with. But that leads me straight into what I want to talk about today, which is the dark secret that many people, that you might be carrying around with you right now. And that is that um, uh, the symptoms of anxiety, depression, traumatic stress are so consuming. They are so on our mind all the time. They are something that we're looking around the corner. Are you coming after me? Are you going to jump after me? We begin to really become very rigid in our inner control, in our inner world, because we don't want to bump into something that's going to set us off into a trigger. We become afraid of becoming afraid. We become afraid of getting triggered. Become afraid of somebody setting us off. We become afraid of these things, and we can start to build a very tight world around us. And then we become hyper vigilant about maybe not past abuse, but maybe just about getting in the car and seeing that thing that sets us into a panic and we have to drive back home, right? Um, we can become anxious about our husband or our wife making this one comment, and then we begin avoiding. We need to stay away from that, right? We realize that we're obsessed with like our brain is chasing around with what if this happens, and what if they all die in the crash, and what if this, and what if that, what if, and it all these what if terrible, awful ideas that come up into our mind, and we're terrified of that, and it's constantly intruding into our brain. And so even though we might be having a conversation with somebody, these flashes are coming into our minds, the what ifs, the worries. Or maybe what you've got going on for yours is you've got um, nobody really likes you, you're not good enough, you only make mistakes. They're going to find out about you. They're going to find out that you are trailer park trash. They're going to find out that you had a child at 15. They're going to find out you're not good enough, you're not good enough. And maybe that's what you're walking around with, that nobody knows, because it's happening on inside of you. And you've been at this for a long time. You've got a lot of skills. You know how to look normal on the outside and be crushed on the inside, be shrinking and shriveling on the inside, right? And so as this keeps building, it's really the secret that we're carrying around is that we're incredibly lonely. That we can't feel the connection. The people love us and they're saying, "Oh my gosh, you are so great to be around you." And they're like, and we're like, "I don't know what you're talking about. Don't you see when I do that?" And don't you see, like, we can't connect with what they're saying about us. We can't connect with why they want to be around us, because we're in our heads spinning a mile a minute trying to avoid this stuff. And we've got enough just to be present and just to make sure we're doing the things, but we are under assault, under attack, with all of these painful emotions and thoughts all the time. And many people never know. But because of that, because of this constant inner struggle, and one of the problems with this is that this constant inner struggle, is not even logical, it's not even reality, it. And let me tell you, that actually means that your potential for healing is great. If you didn't know that you were having that, if you thought it was actually real, that's a harder thing, and that's okay too. um, but it's really frustrating when it's not logical, but you feel it anyway, and it's controlling you and it's moving you. And that makes you feel ashamed, because you're like, what is wrong with me? I don't even believe this, but here I am thinking about it all the time, worrying about it all the time, trying to, meditate out of it, trying to yoga out of it, trying to deep breathe through it. But it just is here and it won't go away. And sometimes I can stop it, and sometimes it will carry me through for a whole day. Sometimes maybe 3 days I will be chased up and caught up in this, or spiraling down this hole. And guess what? The rest of the world's keep going on, and your loved ones still need you to make sure that you get the kids here to there, and that you arrange this family function, you do that. And so maybe you've got lots of people around you, but because you're so caught up here and you're not talking about that, because let's be frank, let's be serious here. Who wants to talk about what ifs all day long? Because you're sick of that. You're sick of having to talk about your anxiety all the time. Like, you know that there's a fear that after you've talked about it 3,000 times and it's still not going away, and you need someone to go ahead and reassure you for the 3,031st time that it's not like that, and we think you're wonderful and we love you. It's that's hard to want to talk about anymore. So now you're withdrawing and you're being quiet, because that's really all you can talk about, because that is, your heart's racing, you can hardly catch your breath. Maybe you feel like you're strangling a little bit, and your stomach is nauseous and it's turning and it's tight and it's just, it wants sunk in there. It's sinking. And so, but you're holding it together on the outside for everybody else, because you don't want to be the one dragging the whole party down. You don't want to be the one dragging your family down. You don't want your kids to know that you are struggling with this. You don't want them to watch you do this. You want this to freaking go away. You don't want this to be a problem in your life. And so you're doing all the things you can do to hold it together, but you're being drained out. You're being drained. You're mentally and physically exhausted. But you're working so hard. You're like one of those ducks on the water. It's like on the top it looks good, but on the bottom you are paddling fast and hard. And you don't, and the truth of the matter is, you don't know how you're going to get out. You don't know when you're going to get out, and you've tried all the things. And what, you're going to go tell your husband or your wife or your friends you're going to try one more thing? They're going to be like, oh, okay, yeah, okay, good luck on that. Why don't you just get over it already? You're still struggling with that? Oh, I thought you got over that already. But weren't you just in therapy for 3 years? What are you talking about? Really? You still feel that way? Right? And that just adds to our loneliness and our shame. That it's just another just nail in the truth that there is something wrong with us and we're the only ones going through this, which is not at all true. This is this is this is I'm talking about this now because um, this is what everybody is calling to talk to me about. This is what we're working on. This is the problem. And and the truth of the matter is that this loneliness is so crushing, and it so doesn't fit, right? It's so illogical because there are people around you everywhere, but you're battling so hard every day. You're trying to do this every day that there are moments of joy happening in front of you all the time. You can't catch any one of them. You can't feel any one of them. You can see it for a moment maybe, but as soon as you reach for it, what if what if some of us aren't allowed in our brains to be able to get excited or to hope for things or to love things too much, because then what if and you don't deserve that, and they're just going to come take it from you anyway. You're going to lose it. That's anxiety, that's depression, that's traumatic stress. And it is hard, and it's lonely, and and as a result of how painful that is on a regular basis, your system is responds to pain. That's what shuts down a lot of the healing that could be doing mentally and emotionally. Is that as the pain increases, your survival center says we're not going to survive like this. This pain is getting too bad, and there's no end in sight. And so what will happen is your system will start to put the depression on. It will start suppressing things as a survival strategy. And so now you're suppressing the emotional pain of anxiety. But guess what? It's not discriminate. It doesn't just say, okay, we're just going to do anxiety. We're also going to have to do everything. That means joy. We're going to suppress joy. We're going to bring that down. You can feel a little bit, but not too much, because it's not safe to feel too many feelings right now. It's not safe to feel too much. And now you really can't get a lot of connection, and you really can't get a lot of excitement. And you can only get a little bit of just relaxation. I mean, I don't even know if that's an emotion, that's necessarily a state of being, but you don't get much of that either. Um, and you feel like you're going through life numb, and you can't feel your loved ones. And that hurts because you didn't have children for this. You didn't have a spouse for this. You didn't have somebody to just look at and never be able to connect with and interact with. But you can't, because you have a big anxiety, depression, or traumatic stress monster between you and them, blocking you from every one of your emotions. And it's loud, it's chattering. You're trying to like talk to your partner. You're in bed at night and anxiety is right there with you. You can't connect. And that's hard. It's really, really, really hard, and it's sad and it's lonely, and you feel like you're losing your grip. And then you don't know how much longer they're all going to tolerate seeing you but not having you, not being able to experience you, because you're only a very small part of who you are. And you can't hardly come out of this to be there. So now the fears of you're going to be left behind and you're not good enough and they'd be better off without you are piling, piling, piling on. And yet, this is a secret. You're not talking about this. Nobody knows because you've dismissed it as it's just nonsense. And so it just goes down there. It doesn't matter. It's not real. It's not chemically, it's real. Those are the chemicals that you're experiencing. Those are the emotions you're experiencing. There's a lot of reality to that. And that's not right. And you know it's not right. And then and what goes on with this loneliness is that it's everywhere. You can't connect anymore. I mean, this like try having a great, like intimate, mind-blowing sex life with anxiety, depression, or traumatic stress hanging out as one of your partners. So now you're in bed with two individuals, your disorders and symptoms, and your spouse. And your spouse is like, just relax. And this one's like, he's going to find out you're not very good at this. And remember that list of things you didn't do? Oh my gosh, the list. What about the list? And you're trying to relax, trying to have a good time, trying to be some sexy goddess diva, and your stomach, your legs. You remember that time that somebody said this, and this isn't safe. And this remember that smell? And you're trying to get here, and then your partner, you're like, no, I love you, I think you're great, but you can't really, because everything that you're doing looks like you're not having a good time, because you're not. And then they want to know why you have to have some wine before you get going in there. Well, because that shuts them up. If I'm gonna come have a good time, I gotta shut them up. Who's gonna shut them up? Are you gonna shut them up? You can't shut them up. You don't even understand them. I gotta shut them up. And let me tell you what, if you're insulted by the fact that I have to have wine every single time, right? This is when we get going. Now we're having fights with the spouses. This is what I'm told, right? This I never figured out that wine and marijuana would help the anxiety, depression, and traumatic stress. Okay, that all stuff came later. I was like, I missed that memo. But I started working on this in my 20s, my late 20s, and so um, anyway, so, but I get it. I know what you're talking about. I absolutely know what you're talking about. And I know why the arguments are starting to happen, and your husband or your wife feels like that you don't really enjoy them. And they're taking it personally, and you're like, it's not you, it's not you. But even that, you can't even explain it because you don't even understand this thing. As you only know that you're stuck, and this thing keeps chasing you around. And you're just lonely because they're turning away from you and they're hurt. And now you're hurting people. That's the story that goes off now. And now the story, they'd be better off without you, or oh my gosh, I'm gonna lose them. And I love them so much, but I can't connect because anxiety, depression, and traumatic stress are over here just all in my way. I can't focus on what I want to be focusing on, and then you got your parenting, and now you're over here busy with the anxiety and depression all day long while you're trying to have a good time, trying to put this puzzle together with your kid. And the next thing you know, you're feeling these emotions. Your kids ask you a question, because don't ask somebody a question when they're in a limbic state. But kids don't know that. All of a sudden you're over here and they want to use this part of the brain, and you're not there, and this part of the brain doesn't want to let you go, and now you have to, because your brain says, I'm going to answer that question for my kid. And so you're shifting out of that limbic state, and guess what you got for them? You got snapping and irritability. And now you think you're a horrible monster because you see your kid like they don't know who they're going to get, if they're going to get the nice mom or the mean mom. And now you're starting to see that same chaoticness that you grew up with, that your moms did, that hurt you. You're starting to see that come out on your kiddos. This is not what you signed up for. That's not who you are as mom. But here you go snapping. And so you feel lonely from them even. You feel like you can't connect with them. And you're messing everything up because you don't know how to get rid of this thing. And so this loneliness is showing up everywhere, showing up at work, showing up in your friendships, because you're starting to pull away and withdraw because you don't want to have these conversations. And you sure don't want to tell them that you're yelling at your kids because you see how awesome they are as moms. Now you're isolated, you're withdrawn, you're failing, and here you are. And that is the dark secret. Many, many, many sufferers with anxiety, depression, and traumatic stress are carrying along behind them. And it hurts and it's hard. And let me tell you what, even if you don't look at it, it's right there. But if you look at it, you can see that this thing is destroying things. It's not you, it is this. And this is the problem you got to solve. And you can. But let me tell you what, couple of things. You know, no one can get you out of this. This is something that you have to decide to do. We can be here. We can cheer for you. We can set up strategic and And we can set up strategies and solutions, and we can make them strategized, and we can make them systematic. We can simplify them. We can do this stuff, and we can make this a no-brainer. But ultimately, you're the one who has to decide to change. You're the one that has to decide to heal, and you're the one that's going to have to grab somebody's hand to get you pulled up out of this. This is not something that you're going to solve by yourself. And I'm not invested in who you solve this with. But you're not going to solve this just by yourself. You need some help. And because the thing of the matter is, this whole you're what you're up against is your survival center and your subconscious programming. All of that's designed to stay out of your awareness. It's all of that's designed so that you don't ever see it have it excuse me, you don't ever see it happening. That's why you get sabotaged and you're like, what, how why am I doing this thing I don't even want to do anymore? Well, your subconscious mind is set towards that, and that's what it's dedicated on creating. That's how your survival center is programmed. It believes that's dangerous. And so it's going to go into fight, flight, freeze, or faint without your conscious choice. You don't get choices about that. You don't get to decide when you're going to freak out, when you're going to fight, when you're going to flee, when you're going to freeze, or when you're going to fall asleep because you've been triggered. You don't get those options. And so, this is something that you need help with. And the faster you get out of this, the absolute better. Because anxiety, depression, traumatic stress, they grow. And let me tell you, if you can get out of it in a moment, but you don't resolve it at the root, it's coming back because it's in there. And you don't get to control when it's going to come back. And so, really, this is it. And this is, and let me just word to the wise here. Your children, you can think that you're hiding it as much as you like, but this is the emotional baggage, the emotional legacy you are leaving your kids, period. It doesn't matter what you say, it doesn't matter what you talk about, it doesn't matter what you do. It matters on who you are emotionally, who you are mentally. That's what your kids pick up, because that's what you're transferring through so many ways, and that's what they're practicing when they watch you. And at best, they're learning how to hide their symptoms. At best, they're learning how to have problems and brush them under the rug and suppress them, which will guarantee that they will struggle with a mental health disorder. And so that's not what I want for you. And I know that's not what you want for your children. That's not what you want for you, but how committed are you to solving this problem? Those are the questions you've got to ask yourself, because there is a way. There's a perfect way. Brains heal. That's what they do. Your brain's already looking for a way right now. But how committed are you to finding it? How resourceful are you going to be? If this way didn't work, okay, let's try that way. Okay, that didn't work. Okay, let's try this way. Okay, all right. I've tried 16 interventions so far and 5 different therapists. And next, right? I'm looking for my next resource. That's it. 3 months is plenty of time to understand if someone's going to help you or not. Period. I would even say 3 sessions is enough to figure out if someone's going to be able to help you solve this problem or not. So you don't need to invest a lot of time in understanding this. You just need to keep searching until you find it and get it. Because what's more important? What's more important in your life? Getting your kids to soccer practice with a mentally ill mom? What's more important than your emotional wellness? I'm waiting. But moms have lots of ways to say, this isn't my priority right now. I can't. I've got kids that are going to college. I have this, I have that, I have this, I have that. Don't you think that would be easier if you weren't um, investing a third of your daylight hours to anxiety, depression and traumatic stress? Don't you think it would be easier to get your kids to soccer practice? Find ways to get them their college paid for if you weren't struggling with this problem? Like, where really are your priorities? What's more important than getting your mental health well? And let me tell you what, I hear lots of people say, they're not motivated for this because it's like, I don't know what that's all about. I'm still thinking about that. But I ask people, I said, if this was your kid and they had a life crushing problem like this, what would you do to solve the problem? Oh, don't mess with my kid, right? I would do this, 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 and this, and this. And if this doctor didn't help them, I'd go do this. Where are you for yourself? And let me tell you what, some hard facts. If you don't become like that for yourself, you can go ahead and give anxiety, depression, and traumatic stress a name and give them a chair right beside you because they're going to follow you around for the rest of your life. The fairies are not coming. No one's going to rescue you from this. This is your brain, and you have got to resolve this. And if you don't take a stand for yourself, it doesn't matter who all takes a stand for you. It doesn't matter how much any of us therapists and emotional wellness coaches go ahead and learn all the most fabulous interventions in the world. If you're not going to take a stand for yourself and decide to change and commit to your healing, it doesn't matter. And you can guarantee you're just going to suffer. And so my next question is for you, how long can you keep going like this? And go ahead, pop that in the comment box if you dare, right? Um, how long can you keep suffering in loneliness even though there's tons of people around you all the time? How much longer can you be ruled by anxiety? How much longer can you keep this secret going on? And when do you want to fix this? That's my next question for you. When do you want to fix this? You get to choose when you want to fix this. I know that that's not really what we're taught and what we're told, but the truth is you do get to decide when you're going to fix this. And you get to say, and your brain might not like this, so I'm going to take a stand for you right now. You get to say, I'm fixing this now. And you can. You absolutely can fix this now. You can take exactly the steps that you need to take to fix this now and be well on your way right now to healing. If you dare. And if you're decided and if you're committed. And let me tell you what, the people I see that get this outcome, they're massively decisive and committed. That does not mean that they're not terrified. That does not mean that they don't know if, oh my gosh, if they're doubtful, right? If I don't know if this will ever help. But guess what? They're the kind of people that are like, I don't know, but I can't just give up. I have to keep going until I find it. And some people like me get it on the first try. Whoo, lucky duck over here. Yes, I did. And I'm grateful. And I honor you all who have been out there and you are on your 5th therapist and your 16th intervention. Oh my God. Like, how hard is that? How much grit do you have? How much decisiveness and commitment do you have to heal and change? I mean, I honor you. Pat yourself on the back and don't stop. And I know you're tired. I know you're exhausted. Keep going. Because there isn't a better option. There's not a better option. I mean, guess what? When you get this right, stuff starts unraveling like boom. I'm about to graduate a client from my program. I'm graduating two this week, but one of them has so much trauma, like massive, and hasn't been able to leave her home. And she told me today, I'm finding myself. I remember who I have. I've been dancing. She's been leaving her home, right? She was like, I love her. I love her. She is the bomb. And throughout the whole way, is this really going to work? Is this really going to work? Doubting the whole time, right? But she's still moving forward for herself. She still chose. And then all of a sudden she was like, oh my gosh, I feel like it's all coming together. And it's like, I now can see how other people's brain, how they can think so normally, how normal people's brains are. got a glimpse. Anyway, but this week, oh my gosh, it was just more transformation. She did it. I taught her how to do it. We coached her, but she did that, right? And that was in 8 weeks, right? And if she can do it, the moral of this story, if she can do it, why can't you do it? You can do it. Let me tell you, I work with lots of people, and not many are as traumatized as that woman is. Okay? So if she, carrying like 2 mountains of trauma behind her, can get this in 8 weeks, what about you? And let's raise our expectations for our therapists and our providers and our emotional wellness coaches. Be like, these are my problems. Let's go with this. This is your job. Eliminate. That's right. That's what you get to do. That's who you get to come to the table with. And if they're like, eliminate, what are you talking about? You need to cope with this for the rest. You're like, okay, bye, Felicia. I have absolutely never watched that show. I just like that saying. So, and I'm borrowing it. I'm actually being one of those moms that have cool kids that say the things that their kids say and has no idea why she's saying them or if it's even in context. Anyway, I just did that. Don't tell them. but but you get to have power in this. You get to say when this goes. You get to choose not to suffer with this anymore. There are yes. And so, but I want you to understand a couple things, because some of y'all, if you're anything like me, are like, okay, I'm gonna try it again myself. Okay. Like we're hardcore. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but it's like just I will never give up, you know? And sometimes it's like you're kicking something that's already done, you know? And it takes me a little while for that. But let me tell you what, you cannot think your way out of this problem. Your thinking abilities have been compromised, and you cannot think your way out of this problem. This is why talk therapy is not the strategy for this. What you get out of talk therapy is you get increased awareness. You understand why you did it. You understand why this is a problem. You understand when you're doing it, but you don't get to choose to make it stop. And that's what you want. Even if you never, let me tell you what, priorities here. If I never understood why I did something, I don't care. I want this to stop. And so if I want the stop button. We can talk about how and what after it stops. And so that's why you're not going to get it with talk therapy, because you can't think your way out of this problem, because the parts of the brain that have the problem, that are creating the problem and keeping the problem going, they're not talking centers. They're not thought centers. They're not rational, and they're not logic. You cannot logic or reason with them. The sooner you stop doing that, the better you will be. Okay. And let me tell you something else. There's no amount of surface level work that you're going to do that's going to solve this problem. Period. You cannot act your way out of this problem. You can't. So don't think you're going to put a plan together to change this behavior and not use that, and not make sure you don't eat the food anymore, and to, make sure you do your breathing stuff. You're not going to act your way through this. You either help your brain get through it in the way that your brain likes, or you're going to have this problem, because there's only way through this, and that is through resolving this. And the last thing is that if your problem is in your inner functioning and in your inner workings, that is where you have to go. And that's why the behavioral levels is not going to get it for you. That's not where the problem is. And the problem's over here. You can't stay over here and solve the problem. You're not going to solve the problem. You got to get over here. And if you got blazing hot trauma, the stuff that hell is made out of, you are not going to want to just roll up in there, because you're going to suffer and be punished. But guess what? You still got to get in there. And there's lots of strategies. When you hire a professional, and the right professional for you, there are lots of strategies to get in there and solve this problem at the root where the problem is. And that is how you solve this problem. Okay, so if you can do that by yourself, you go right ahead. But I'm telling you, you can hurt yourself. Don't do that. Get the help you need, and pay whatever price you got to pay. If that's your co-payment, or you got to whip out some debit cards, or you got to pull out from your 401k, or you got to do all the things. Who the heck cares? This is your life. These are your babies. This is your mental wellness. What are you going to do? Oh, I don't like to do video sessions. I am not driving around town. And what do you mean? What are you talking about? Oh, I can't take the time off of work. What do you mean? If you don't stop this, you're going to be in a residential facility taking lots of time off for work. What are you talking about? You're not willing to take time off of work. Oh, no, I only want to do 15 minutes a day of this work. What do you mean? What do you mean you only want to do 15 minutes? Oh, I don't want to go into debt for this, for my what do you mean? What do you mean you don't want to go into debt for this? I mean, what's happening here? You'd rather make sure that, that you're not, that you can, I don't understand. Because I don't know what path you're going to take. But let me tell you what, you better pay whatever price your dream asks of you. If you dream to be out of this, whatever that asks of you, you better do it. I remember being with this one worker, and she's the one who handed me my first intervention, that helped me. That the only intervention I used to move my anxiety disorder into remission. And it was very weird. I was like, "What are we doing?" Because I have a master's in this stuff, right? And you want me to what? Okay, and but she had saved. I mean, she had like totally brought in healing like fast to my kid, which that's why I brought her there. In 3 days, she solved this problem that was like none of the doctors could solve. And so by this time, if she had told me, look, this is what you're going to do and you're going to change your life, I would say, I mean, I was like this because I was scared of this woman anyway, because I was like, I don't even know what you just did to my kid. Okay. But I'm going to stay on your good side because I don't know what else you got going on. So, but she handed me this thing. She said, try this, it'll change your life. But if in this thing, when I opened it up, it said, jump on one leg 3 times and jump on three, I would have done that. I would have done that. Because I'm going to try everything out at this point. Because I will not let my baby suffer with this. I will not. I'm not going to, this is not what my life is for. My life is not for suffering and letting anxiety, depression, and traumatic stress ride my ass. No, thank you. I'm not taking backpacks around. No. So I don't know what it's going to take for you to solve this problem, but your commitment to solving the problem is what's going to matter. Your decision to solve this problem is what's going to matter. Not hoping, not wishing, not imagining, doing it. And so whatever that is, if you get this for free, awesome. If you have to if you have to go in debt for it, awesome. Because who the heck cares after that? If you have to take time off of work, if you have to put off your kids, to get to my dream, I had to like spend some Christmas money. There's you have to make these decisions in your life. And guess what? You have to make these decisions while you got some symptoms going on that are going to make it really hard for you to make decisions in your life. That's hard. That's hard. But you got to do it. There's no way around it. But when you get this, this is your victory. You become your hero. That's the awesome part of this. And it happens every time. It happens every time. So, having said that, you got to go find your way and you got to solve this problem, get this problem out of your life. And because you know what, you can't be carrying these secrets around anymore. You're not meant for this. You're not meant to suffer like this. This is not something to take to the grave, and people do. And this is not something to sprinkle a little medication over and leave it there. I'm not against medication. I've partnered with medication plenty of times and we rock that. But that's not the long-term plan because the problem's still underneath there. And we're not just going for good enough. We're going for it. We're going for the dream. We're going for freedom, for connection, from being able to be our authentic self, not being afraid to be who we are anymore. That's what anxiety, depression, traumatic stress is eating away, is our authentic self, our shot at one amazing life. So I'm going to answer questions in the comment thing, but I want you to hear me solve this problem. And if you're somebody who feels like that you want to talk with me about if I to see if I can help you solve this problem, and you're someone who healing is your top priority right now, then go ahead and grab a spot on my calendar. I will spend an hour with you to help you figure out what's going on, what's not working for your life right now, in your life right now, and where you want to go. Okay, if I can help you with that, I will absolutely show you what that would look like. And if I can't, I will point you in the right direction so that by the time we're done, you know exactly what you need to do to get to your dream. Right? But if you're somebody that's like, I don't know, it's not really one of my priorities, let's wait and hold off on this call because one day you're going to be there and it's going to be your time. Okay. And if you are that person that this is your top priority and you want to talk with me about that, you can grab a spot on my calendar by going to rachelmcleod.com/call. That will pull up, um, my calendar. You can grab a spot that works for you and we'll talk. Okay. Um, all right. So I've added that in the comments. Okay. Here we go. We're going into the comments. Oh, Fly Kelly. I love it. Owning that identity. Or maybe your first name really is Fly. I mean, no offense, but I'm loving it either way, whatever it is. Um, but she's saying this is so good. Good. I'm so glad. Um, okay, she says the cynicism is the worst. Absolutely. It's draining. It's like you can't even like you're having a good moment and it's just like you really, you think all that really who do you think you are? And it's just like everywhere you go. Yeah. And that no one should live like that. That's bullying. If that was outside of us, we would handle that. But it's inside of us. We shouldn't have any different approach to it. We should handle that. Uh, I've heard get over it like it's a once and done thing. Yeah. And the thing of the matter is that it is true. You need to get over it. It is a true thing. And in the brain, how the brain functions, it is a once and done thing. However, to accomplish this, no one ever talks about how to accomplish this, and nobody knows how to accomplish this unless you spend all these years specializing in exactly that. But your emotional world is very much like your digestive system, right? You eat it like you're having an event in life. You're eating it, then it goes to your stomach, so you chew it all up, goes to your stomach, and then from there it's digested. It moves to your small intestine. The body picks out what it wants, and then it has all the stuff that's left over, and it goes to your large intestine. And the large intestine's job is to get rid of that stuff. And guess what? You don't go back and eat that again. It's once and done. You eat that thing once, you're done. And emotionally and mentally, it's the same way. You have an event, it happens, you start chewing it up and trying to figure out what's going on. But if and then once you get it through the healing pathways, and then it goes into your stomach, which is we'll call your prefrontal cortex your stomach, your thinking center and your inner healer, and that in there digests it and breaks it down even further, and then your small intestine is activated, and your neural pathways and your brain starts pulling out what you want and what it can use, and oh, this is good, this is a piece of gold that was in there, it was a horrible experience, but that was some gold, and it starts pulling stuff out, and then it goes, and then there's a bunch left that's pain and gunk and limited thinking and just yuck and not needed for your system at the very best. And so your brain then goes ahead and eliminates that and gets rid of it, and you're done with that. It really happens like that. And so it is that is the process for that. However, if you have an experience and you're chewing it up and for whatever reasons you can't get it through the healing pathways, and that a lot of times will happen because it's too painful and your survival center says nope, not coming through, and it's the boss of these things, and so your survival center shuts it down, and so you can't um, you can't get it through, and so it just stays there. It'd be like if you had something in your stomach and it stays there for decades, right? That would cause some major problems, right? That's what happens with this stuff. And when then what happens, your inner healer is like, we got this, we're going to go in here and rock this, and so it goes in there and it's stopped every time, it goes in there and stopped every time. That's why you have circling thoughts, that's why you have flashbacks, because your inner healer is trying to get that through, but it can't. And so finally that's what happens till you either resolve the problem or you don't. And that's really, this is what I've spent my life, especially not my life, but my a lot of my adult life specializing in, is getting this from here through the healing pathways. That's really the only thing our brain needs is to get past that part. Next thing you know, it's off and running. It can do the whole digestive process. And then that's it. It starts healing. It starts resolving things. It starts solving your problems and resolving internal conflict, right? And so it really is a one and done. And then what happens? You got to go back to the pile, you know? You got to go back and get more, get all that stuff out of there because that's not supposed to be there. You got to get it through. And and so anyway, I could go on and on about that, but this doesn't have to be something that you're struggling with for the rest of your life. It really can be one and done. I helped someone 10 years ago with one phobia. We spent 10 minutes working on it. I was just learning these interventions, and so I was working specifically with the survival center. And when you have a phobic response, you go into fight mode, fight, flight, freeze, or faint, and you're screaming, and you're jumping on a chair, and you got to get away from that thing as fast as you can, and that's your own flee. And we spent 10 minutes on it, done. They have not had a phobic episode about that one thing since, and we laugh about it. I mean, so when problems that we have can be complex, right? And you can't just shove things through the healing pathways. Sometimes you got to break them down and get them in there, right? And that's how you resolve a whole project. You got to resolve the whole thing. And sometimes that takes just a little bit, and the brain's like, oh, we finally got it going. I got the rest, move out of my way. And it'll go ahead and do it all by itself. Sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes you got to stand there and piece every little piece in. And if you don't know how to do that, you're not going to be able to do that. But if you do know how to do that, you can do that for yourself. And you can spend. And this is how I help people eliminate symptoms of anxiety, depression, traumatic stress in 2 to 6 months instead of 2 to 6 years, because you just do it. And you can do it systematically, and you can do it consistently over and over and over again by targeting and eliminating symptom after symptom after symptom after symptom. And then once you get those skills, what I teach people how to do is to do a whole project. And that way, I watch them and help them take down a whole project. So that way they have the skill and they get the project resolved, right? And then they can do that on repeat, and they do. So these things really are one and done, but talking about them, when you use talk therapy or strategies that have to do with thoughts, that's never a one and done. And I wouldn't even say that's a done. And that's why we think that things can't be one and done, is because the strategies we use don't create one and dones. They don't create dones. So, but it's really painful, and it's really pushes you into more isolation to hear, get over it. If you coulda, you woulda, right? I mean, yeah, it's a very insensitive thing. And you've gone past somebody's skill set when they say that. It's not you that has the problem, Kelly. It's they are telling you, I don't have the skill set to help you any further with this. And that's sad too. And that's really isolating, because that if you keep talking with them about it, you're just going to keep getting those insensitive comments that tell them, like, this is a real problem. I don't know what to do with it. But instead of saying something like that, that would be empathetic. I would say, man, this seems like it's really big. And I really, honestly, I don't know how to help you. Like, that would at least be validated to some extent. But instead they're using it like they're using a pushback, right? A defense. This is, you're not doing it right. Instead of saying, I don't know how to deal with this. And really therapists will do that too. So do be careful out there. That really is code for, I really don't know how to help you. Okay. And I want you to see that for what it is not your problem. You're doing what you're supposed to be doing. You're reaching out for help. But when you're reaching out for help, you need to reach out where you can get it. A lot of us want to talk to our girlfriends about this. We want to talk to our husbands about this. It will make you feel better for a little while, but it will not solve this problem for you. You're just wasting your time and putting it off longer, and you're draining those relationships, and they're starting to feel like, oh my gosh, I can't help you. And that's not needed. They're not supposed to be able to help you yet. I mean, it would be nice if my dream is that we're doing this stuff at our table with our kiddos, and we're massively trained in trauma work and how the brain functions, because it's our brain. Why shouldn't we know how to work with it? Yes, Fly Kelly says, what if you've been taught to pretend as a means of racial survival? Yeah, as a means for racial survival. Absolutely. That's a traumatic conditioning. And so, but guess what? Your brain can resolve that and let that go whenever you're ready. It's a hard one to deal with. If you deal with it at the thought level, it's going to take a really, really long time. But because it's conditioning based on trauma and fear and those sorts of things, you have to work with the survival center, because that's the part of the brain that has been activated, alerted, and like, this is what we do. You don't get choices about this. This is how we do it. And so that's really where we want to work on that. All these racial issues that we're going on right now have to do with survival system stuff and subconscious programming. But few of us know how to work on that. And so many of racial things are staying in place because we don't know how to use our brain to change these things and to update to our actual belief system. And that's why many people are really frustrated when they see their biases. They're just like, oh my gosh, no, biases are how the brain functions. And so we can't be alarmed when we find out we're a bigot. I mean, things get shoved in your subconscious programming all the time. And if you find some bigotry, move it through the healing pathways. Your brain will fix that. But we don't know how to do that. And so we're stuck with some of these things, and that creates a lot of shame. And that shame is a lot of hiding, a lot of loneliness, and a lot of like stagnant stuff that never gets healed. And we're hiding it. And then it comes that you can't hide that stuff. We think we're so good at hiding. We're not. It's like 3-year-olds that are hiding behind something and you can see all of them. Like, we're doing that as adults. And it's a thing. So even if you've been taught, and that's not learning how to pretend, is not just a racial thing. So if you're hearing, if you've been somebody who's been taught how to pretend to survive, understand that, one, you have a lot of things in common. You can really relate to everyone struggling with all the things. But you don't have to keep living a life with pretend in it. You can actually come and be your authentic self. That's what we're doing here. Those are the goals of this life, is to be yourself and thrive. How can you thrive as you? And if you've got these influences, this conditioning that has taught you to pretend for whatever reason, that's in conflict with you being you, and that's going to cause a lot of anguish, and it's going to make you make a lot of decisions that are not in your highest good. You're going to be making these decisions for the identity that you're pretending to be. And so when all of life is going to her, you're missing out, and you can't feel it, and you're not getting all the benefit out of it because it's going to her, because you built everything for her. Right. And so we need to stop that, so we can really make it fit for us, and life coming and happening to us, and us being able to interact with it and grab it and juice it, right, and be able to enjoy it all up. Um, yeah, and then Fly Kelly says you can't even fully embody your roles with the struggle. No, none of them, because you're not present. You can't be present because it's it's like if you had a baby, a toddler, and you're trying to work, right? You can't be fully present because they need you. They're calling your attention, and that's appropriate. And we do that happily. But to have this be your mind, and you have to drag this thing everywhere, and it's calling your attention all the time. It's got your number. It knows exactly how to call you. And guess what? If you don't pay attention to it, it can press the button to make your stomach knot up. Now, are you going to listen to me? And if you didn't listen then, okay, how about racing heart? Boom. How about that? How you think about that? You like that one? Are you going to listen now? Because I got some things I want to talk to you about. Right? And that's horrible. It's hard to be anywhere. It's hard to be a wife, a father, a mother, a daughter, when you've got these things going on. Yeah, absolutely. Um, okay, and Kelly says she's just having a great time. Good, I'm loving that. We absolutely do have to show up honestly. This is a major. This is um, this is one of the fastest ways to heal, is to really be honest. Because guess what? Who you are, you have to. If you ever want to be wherever you want to be, you can only get them by being exactly who you are right now. You can't get there through pretending to be somebody who's going to be somebody. You have to acknowledge who you are right now and be that person. Now, once you acknowledge that, then you can build a lot from there, and you can go up, and you can go up quickly. But a lot of people miss this because they keep seeing who they want to be. They keep focusing on who they want to be, who they want to be, and they won't bring it back to be exactly who they are. And who you are right now is someone who's struggling with anxiety, depression, traumatic stress. And you need to be that person right now. Especially if you want to get out of this, you need to be that. I mean, I can't tell you how many clients I've had to say, excuse me, can you start acting like someone with a mental illness? Like it looks like everything's fine, and you're doing all the 10 things, and you're doing all the stuff. Can you ask for some help? Can you sleep in? Can you call off for work? Like we're trying to heal here, right? So, but the truth of the matter is, if we can be ill for a moment, if we can be sick, if we can be under the influence of anxiety, depression, traumatic stress for a moment, we can fix that, right? But if we got to chase you down because you just won't, that's going to take a long time. Well, I retraction. Um, as long as you're working, I'm like, wait, your strategies do that. Yeah. So no, that's a symptom, right? And as long as you're willing to work and be honest, like I just don't want to be that person. If you can be honest about that, we can work with that. So yeah. Okay. So Fi Kelly, I see we need to meme that. You cannot act your way out of this problem. And I see that Candace Hunt is really connecting as well. Um, yeah. Let's see. Um, Sarah Carter Baxter says, Rachel, do you use any essential oils directly on your head to overcome PTSD or anxiety or depression? I do not use those strategies because I really prioritize strategies that are very specific and precise. When I see a problem, I want to use the ones that are going to specifically get in there. I know I can rely on them every single time. And I've got my order of things, and then I've got all the other stuff that's really awesome that I know is going to help, but it's not going to eliminate specifically right now. And I have interventions like that. Essential oils are not in that. Now, can essential oils help you? Absolutely. Calming, self care, all that stuff has a place here. And because we have to be stable, right? We have to stabilize ourselves, and if something can help bring in calm and comfort, or even sometimes we need a distracting things are not super healing, but they are survival strategy that we can employ because we're at war, right? When we're going in here to do this work, we're at war. And if we need to flee during war, that's a valid strategy. We're going to do that. But we're going to do it with intention. And then we're going to get back and we're going to be like, okay, now we got our butts kicked. Now let's see what we get. Let's try it from the left. Okay. And we're going to go in here and see what we can do. And, maybe this thing is a big monster, and maybe a surprise attack here and a surprise attack there. And it's like strength, the weakens it enough for us to be able to go in and take that down. The thing is that it's just really important to function and to stay stable during all of the work, because some people have this going in really destabilizes them, and that means that they lose function and those sorts of things. Most people, that's not the case, but for those people that are very sensitive and have had a lot of trauma in trying to heal, then we're going to use those things. So essential oils absolutely can be woven into the work. Absolutely, and can become a really great strategy. Not something that I'm experienced with, but when I work with clients, they will bring their own skill set along with them. Like, we're not leaving anything behind. Anything we pull in here, we're pulling in. And let's get it all on the table and look at it, and let's go. I'm going to put my stuff on the table, and we're going to be pulling from things. And so if you have skill with that, that would be something that you would bring in, right? Um, let's see. That's a good question. Um, Fly Kelly says it's very dismissive and unloving. I'm not certain what you're speaking. Oh yes, I think you're talking back on the get over it. It is very dismissive and it is unloving. And I think that most people aren't trying to be dismissive or unloving when they say get over it. Like, some people are really in there trying to be like, no, really, for real, please get over it. Okay. And that's not very helpful. It's not helpful at all. It's thank you, Captain Obvious. But really, and many people are frustrated, right? They're just frustrated and like the pushback, right? And other people are defensive about it. They're defending themselves, and it really isn't very. It's not the thing. Jess Fry says, you're never asking for the wrong thing. You're asking it of the wrong person. Very well said. We can meme that too. We got memes going on here. And that's it. I don't know if there is a better truth than that. I mean, we could just mic drop and wrap it up right there. That's the truth. And sometimes, I'm reflecting on that, and I think that that has to do with professionals, right? When you're getting help, and you're not asking for the wrong thing for help, but you might be asking the wrong person. And so, if that's a thing, then you respond to that. Sometimes, like I'm reflecting on this, and I see that there have been many times in my life I've been reaching out for help when it was like I needed to ask myself for that. I need to ask myself for that kind of help, whether it was to make a decision or to for reassurance, like many times, right? And so we need to be doing all of that. I mean, once we're asking the right person, like man, whew, it all falls open. Um, Fly Kelly says we get along because we don't know how. Yes, and let me tell you what, Fly Kelly. Um, what I tell myself when I get here, because we all get here at some point. I call this point when you don't know how, that you are at the end of your neural pathways. Like you're following the tracks, you're like, oh my gosh, yes, yeah, here I am, yes. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh, there's nothing there. Like, what do we, oh, right? I don't know how to do that. I see that there's a big hole and I could see to the other side. Looks good over there. I don't know how to do this. And what I tell myself right there, because I've been to that end of the road plenty of times and I freaked out the first like 4 or 5 times. And then I was like, oh, like brains do this. Like, okay, let's go. What I tell myself is that people have been doing stuff they don't know how to do since the beginning of time. That's not a stopping factor. Knowing how to do something is not necessary to the process. Okay. Now, let me tell you the other truth of that is if you don't know how, you better find somebody who does, right? But or you find it, you know. But that's the deal. Is a lot of times we see we don't know how and we stop. But own that, right? That's truth. Who I am right now is I don't know how to overcome this. Okay. Now, I'm going to tell you a secret. Those are the clients I love to work with the most because they're just like, if I could have fixed this, I would have fixed this already. I'm like, oh, well, let me hand you a toolkit. Let's go. And they're like, and they will do the work. Right. Um, so that's a really wonderful place to be, so that you don't know how to do it. It's a fantastic thing because let me tell you, I ask people, what's the real reason you haven't fixed this problem yet? I want to know what that answer is because that's what's actually blocking them. And when I hear I don't know how, I'm like, okay, awesome, simple. When I hear I don't know if it will really work, I can see that we may have some challenges here because if humans don't do things they don't think will work, humans don't do things that they feel are impossible. There has to be a level of I believe the possible. I believe it's possible for it to happen. Right? Some people say some people's real reason they haven't solved it is because they're afraid of investing, whether it's paying for a weekly sessions or a program or gas money through the car, right? So when you figure out the real reason why you don't fix this, then you can get busy in resolving that and overcoming those obstacles. And if you're at the place and you're just like, I don't know how, find somebody who does. Simple. That's it. That's one of the easiest ones. And then it's like, well, now there's obstacles that come up with that, but same process. You can do the one process, you can do the other. Sarah Carter Baxton says mirror therapy, asking yourself first. Awesome. I really like to work with the mirror. However, the mirror can be very triggering. And so you didn't ask me this and you're right. Ask yourself first. I'm adding on, but the mirrors are really powerful because you can have a relationship or an interaction with yourself. And but that can be really triggering because many of us are trying to avoid ourselves. And so anyway, I was just thinking that aloud. That was just thoughts from Rachel. So, okay, we are at the hour mark, and those are all the questions now. So, I'm going to jump off. Thank you for being with me during this, and thank you for showing up for yourself. Really, I know you're seeking, I know you're looking, and the sooner we can get you to deciding point, because there's not a lot of learning and thinking. That's for learning and thinking. It's for this, right? And that is not where this problem is solved. Learning and right here is where the problems are solved. Okay. And so I want you to get over there as soon as possible and get in here and do this work and get it out of your life. Even if you don't get to learn it in beforehand, just fix it and then you can learn it, you know? So anyway, And end the loneliness. That's really the deal. End the loneliness. Don't pass that on to your kids. Don't teach your kids how to be lonely. Don't teach your kids how to not let people in. Don't teach your kids how to let anxiety, depression, and traumatic stress win. Because you need to be fully present to do all of this stuff. Don't let yourself keep going on like this. You got a life to live. Okay? It's time to live that. All right. And I will talk with you later.